guys, so welcome to my Sunday live. Why change the habit of a lifetime? Or the habit of, it's been since about February, March actually, and there's only been, within all that time, and it's now August, there's been a couple of Sundays where I've decided not to do a live. Mostly because, I was a little bit tired or had a few things going on, but yeah, generally I've been committed to my Sunday live at 6 p.m. every week for how many months now, so it feels like it's important in a time of, I suppose, change, and yeah, things sort of have to keep adapting all the time. That I think it's important that there is some consistency in our lives from time to time, and in fact when I've asked people to describe me in say 2 or 3 key words, there's very common words that come up actually, such as warmth, sparkle, passion, focus, and many others, but there is also a piece around consistency as well, which is quite important. So, as always, there's a link to courage, with it being the Courageous Coaching Conversations. And this week, I was thinking about the idea of what it takes to build courage up. So I think it can take a period of time. It's not necessarily a case that we all just have this infinite amount of courage that just, appears out of nowhere. I think it's a bit like a muscle. I think it takes time to build that up. And I don't know if any of you saw some of my other videos that I was doing in the week, but I was talking to a family member about what it would take to set up their own business, and they were talking a lot about this and how it would potentially help them in different ways in their life. I mean, it's a massive, big thing for them to consider as well, because they've never sort of ran their own business in all their working life. Now, they've got courage to definitely consider doing it. I can say that based on what I know it takes to build up, develop, continue with, persevere, with your own work and your own business for many, many years now. And when I was talking to them, they were weighing up the risks and the concerns, what's needed, the upsides, what are the potential benefits. And I think one of the things that they realised was that they needed a lot more information, but I got the sense that the information could definitely help them build up that level of courage and resilience and determination, because as one of the sayings go, knowledge is power. I think it's really important that you are armed. If you're going to try something new, if you're going to go into something new, if you're going to take on new challenges, then I think having some of those skills and some of that knowledge is really key. But at the same time, naturally, they were, also sharing, looking at some of the concerns, the question marks they may have, which, we did point out was very natural to have. But I sort of then reminded them of what I call the bigger picture, when they were looking at these concerns, these question marks that they may have. And what I was saying to them was, I was asking them key questions to remind them of, why is it that they're saying this is really important? What's the purpose of it? What's the reason for it? And by asking them some key questions, I also reminded them with those questions and the way they were answering them, that they actually said they hadn't actually really been fulfilled in their work for probably, they reckon, about the last 10 years. That's a long time to be doing work day in, day out, giving it, your heart, your passion, your energy, with something that you really, hand on heart, not really feeling that fulfilled with. And so what I was sort of then reminding them of was taking the risk to building this courage enabling them, you know, to create something more fulfilling and something really new and energising, this could actually impact on how they feel about other aspects of their life in a positive way as well. If you make, you know, one change, and it could be a big significant change, you know, looking at a different kind of work, setting up your own work, it's a big change actually, but at the same time those things still have the potential to have a real positive impact, a ripple effect on other areas. So I often find when people get a bit worried or stuck or procrastinate and, you know, say, oh, but I'm not quite sure what to do next, should I do this, should I do that, and getting really stuck over the and ahhing of which route to take, what direction, what to do. And there's lots of ways of dealing with that, and one of them is to say, well, do you know what, choose one. Actually, you know, accept that either way, one of them will make a difference, because it has to affect change in some way, shape or form. You know, close your eyes and point your finger, you know, toss a coin. But what I'm saying is get out of that and ahhing, shall I, shall I, what decision shall I make? Because that will just keep you stuck in the same place, and then that's not going to move you forward at all. Somebody else that I spoke to this week was describing their life as very limited. They were sort of sharing that due to circumstances that were out of their control in terms of what happened to them and you know, close family, they'd ended up actually looking after others, and particularly another person that was, you know, a lot younger than them, so they were very reliant upon them, and so this meant restrictions and putting others first for quite a long time. I mean, I'm talking quite a number of years. And when they were talking to me, they were saying that they were now beginning, still quite early days, but they're beginning to look after themselves more. They know they now need to begin to put themselves first a little bit of the time, not all of the time, because they still have this responsibility for this restriction in another part of their life, but it's just a little bit less at the moment. And they recognise that to take those steps, to put themselves first, to consider that they were, if you like, something other than being a carer, which was a big part of their identity that they'd become for a number of years. To do this, to put themselves first, was quite scary. It was quite, you know, they felt quite a big step. It took some courage actually for them to turn around and say, I need and want, you know, to put my needs first, to put myself first, to look after myself first. Because what they were also recognising was that even though they had a number of restrictions in their life because of this role they'd taken on, at the same time they knew they were going to be burnt out, and they weren't going to have the level of energy and passion and just resourcefulness to carry on, you know, for many years to come. They needed to gain some kind of energy and resourcefulness from somewhere else. Now, what they also had done was closed many aspects of themselves, and so they'd become everything that this other person needed, which was important at the time, and it meant that it really helped this other individual, but it then took away any aspects of their sense of who they were, their identity, going out, meeting other people, just engaging with other aspects of themselves other than being this carer. And so I was then sort of saying to them, you know, as a starting point, well, where else can you step out of your comfort zone? What does it mean to step out of your comfort zone? And we were talking about this idea that, you know, one person, to do that, it could just mean going out of the home for half an hour without anybody else, just by them, completely by themselves, to do something that had nothing to do with anything for anybody else in their life, which to them was a massive step. It was something they hadn't done for a long time. For somebody else, that might mean, you know, nothing. It could be that for somebody else, doing you know, something new, going on a new course, going to a place by yourself where you're going to meet new people, you've got to talk to strangers, that might be a really big piece to step out of the comfort zone. They also talked about other steps like having a breakfast, having a healthy breakfast and not missing it every day, having time in the bath by themselves without being constantly interrupted. Talked about listening to the favourite tunes that really, energised them and got them really sort of geared up and really got them, sort of enjoying life a little bit more. And when I was sort of talking to them about this, I said to them, if you don't do this, i.e., putting yourself first and putting some of these actions into place, then what's the worst thing that could happen? And so they gave me an example that they wouldn't have a fulfilling sort of job, that they wouldn't feel so good about themselves. They didn't feel then they'd be able to do a good enough job with the person they were caring for. And we took the step each time. So every time they said, well, I think then I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, then I'd be like, okay, so what could happen then? And what could happen then? And you literally just dug deeper till you got to a point where it was, the most extreme case possible. And then at one point they just sort of looked at me and went, well, actually the reality is I don't really think it would even get to that point. But if it did, now we've got there, well, I've pursued literally every avenue, every option, so, it can't really be that bad after all. So it felt like by going to the worst case scenario and going, but what if, they actually just got to a point where they almost exhausted the fears that were actually mostly in their head as well. They weren't really based on a reality at that point. The other thing that we also looked at was the perspective, where they literally were saying, well, what could be the best life possible? So, what if I put X, Y and Z into place? What's the possibilities here? What's the amazing things that could happen? What are the wonderful things that I could offer, family and these key members that they've been caring for a long time? What's the upside to that right then they weren't potentially being able to offer that person? Now, they were talking about all these different things they could consider, and at one point they were sort of saying, oh, well, we're talking about courage, and a couple of times they said, oh, but that's not really courage, is it, to other people? They felt it was a big step for them, but then they dismissed it because they were saying, well, other people wouldn't see that as courage. So it was almost making it small, it was belittling it in some way. And I was saying to them, you can't compare one person's definition of courage to another. If you do that, chances are we'll always find somebody else that appears to have more courage, can do bigger than, better than, more than, and that just doesn't help. So it's important to really take hold of what is courage for me and for you, and that is individual, it's personalised, it's no less or no more, it's just key to what's absolutely, in perspective to that particular individual. And I've put here, I've written a couple of thoughts, and I've put one person taking risks, as I mentioned earlier, to set up a business versus another person giving themselves permission to be kind and caring themselves, which was the other example in the way I was talking about. They're different acts of courage for those individuals. There's no one of them that can say, oh, yours is better or worse than mine. It takes more than to do that, because you haven't lived in that person's skin. You haven't had their life experiences. You don't know what they're really feeling. You can't compare the courage it takes to be, for example, an Olympian versus somebody who's, raised a child with a disability. Both of those require courage and bravery, but on, in very different ways, on very different levels. You can't compare, for example, a firefighter who saves a life to a 7-year-old child who consistently stands up to a bully every day. Both those acts, take a lot of guts, a lot of courage, very heroic, real sort of role models for other people around them. But neither of those are better than, more than. They're different, and they're different for those individuals at the end of the day. And I think that's really, really key. Each person has their own sense of what courage means for them. And so the key for me is to keep practicing everyday acts of courage to build up the muscle in the same way we build up, muscles through sort of exercise, muscles in the sense of developing our way of thinking, our cognitive ability. In that way, we can also build up the muscle of courage. And I've put here as well, to enable your version of courage and the actions you need to take and adapt and change over time, you need to therefore consider what are all the acts of courage you can take, and remember this will enable you to live a more fulfilling, on purpose, alive life. And so I think each time you're thinking of what are your daily acts of courage, and as I said, it doesn't matter what you perceive them to be, it's important that you know they are acts of courage for you. Then how is that going to potentially bring you a step closer to having a more fulfilling, alive, energised life in all areas, with your health, with your relationships, with your living environment, with your financial security, with your work, your career, all different areas of your life. That's really important to keep asking yourself those questions. So that's my sort of key piece on my sort of aspects of building up courage and the steps that are required. And as I said, really important that it's not about comparing and comparison with each other. It's about what you believe to be individually right for you. So I'm just going to read you a couple of poems, which I always sort of take opportunity to do in the live. Both fairly short ones. The first one is called Breathe. Breathe through the hurt, waves of. Breathe through the tears, fight through the tears. Frustration so deep it's stuck in my gut. I scream internally. I want to scream and shout out my frustration, but I don't. I breathe. Dabbing away the tears. No one can hear me. No one's listening to me, but I can. I can hear my silent scream. I can feel the twisting. I can hear my breathing. Breathe. Until slowly it dissipates. Slowly quietening. Gentle breath. Breathe. Until next time. And that was called Breathe. The second one I'm going to read is called Where Do You Go? Where do you think we go? I don't know. Where did you go? I saw you. Did you see yourself? Did you meet with yourself? What sort of conversations did you have? What did you say? Were you truthful? Were you honest? It's a roller coaster. 1 minute we're up, then we're down. It plays with my emotions. 1 minute you're in, then you're out. Up, down, in, out. Where do you go? To another world. To another land. Is it real or make-believe? How do you know? where do you go? That was my second poem. So I'm going to get my song up for you guys. Don't want to make the habit of a lifetime. And I can imagine, for those of you watching now on the live, or if you watch afterwards, you're all waiting in anticipation to see which song I'm going to be attempting to sing this week. So you don't have to wait any longer. Here it is. Here's a little song I wrote. You wanna sing it note for note. Don't worry, be happy. In every life we have some trouble, but when you worry, you make it double. Don't worry, be happy. Ooh, ooh, don't worry. Ooh, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Ooh, ooh, don't worry. Be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Ain't got a place to lay your head. Somebody came and took your bed. Don't worry, be happy. The landlord say your rent is late. You may have to litigate. Don't worry, be happy. Ooh, ooh, don't worry. Ooh, be happy. Hey, I'll give you my phone number. When you worry, call you, I'll make you happy. Ooh, ooh, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Ain't got no cash, ain't got no style. Ain't got no girl to make you smile. Don't worry, be happy. 'Cause when you worry, your face will frown, and that will bring everybody down. Don't be happy. Ooh, ooh, don't worry, be happy. Be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Ooh, ooh, don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. And that is it. That's my song. If you spot the losing my place for a moment, I'm often watching the screen and then I'll print the words out. Sometimes, depending on the version, doesn't always quite marry up. Hey ho, can't be perfect. Yeah, contrary to what lots of people may think. Anyway, guys, listen. Have the rest of a fabulous evening. It's still a beautiful evening, really, really warm. Make the most of it. Thank you for joining me, for watching, whether it be now, whether it be at some point when you may watch it back. Hope that giving you a little bit of food for thought, some thoughts around what it means for you to be courageous and have that little bit of courage, to just take yourself out your comfort zone, just that little bit each day. Maybe the poems were something that, you know, sort of resonated with you, and or maybe you really like the song, who's to know. So thank you guys, have the rest of a really good week as well. Feel free as always to contact me, to message me, to just sort of speak to me, to comment. Absolutely will always respond and give you lots of my thoughts and ideas, and hopefully little moments of fun and inspiration as well. So take care guys, lots of love. Bye, speak to you later, bye.